You wake because something is breathing against your neck. It's soft, warm, steady. Your daughter has somehow rolled across the animal hides during the night and curled herself against your chest. One tiny hand is tangled in your hair. Her breathing rises and falls with yours, as if the two of you share the same heartbeat. The fire beside you has nearly burned out. Only a few glowing embers remain, throwing faint orange light across the shelter. Somewhere beyond the entrance, wolves call to one another in the darkness. You can hear them clearly. They aren't close enough to be in immediate danger, but they're close enough to remind everyone inside that the world beyond the fire belongs to something else. Nobody sleeps alone, not the children, not the parents, not even the elders. Around you, nearly 20 people share the same shelter. Grandparents, hunters, mothers nursing infants, older children wrapped together beneath stitched reindeer hides. Privacy doesn't exist. Every cough, every laugh, every nightmare belongs to everyone. For almost every modern parent, this sounds unimaginable. For your ancestors, it was simply another night. 30,000 years ago. Raising a child wasn't a private responsibility shared between two exhausted adults. It was the entire tribe's most important job. Because if the children didn't survive, neither would humanity. Modern parents spend thousands of hours worrying about school admissions, nutrition labels, bedtime routines, and screen time. Your ancestors worried about something much simpler. Would this child still be alive when the snow returned? That single question shaped every decision they made. Yet strangely, despite living in one of the harshest environments humans have ever faced, prehistoric children may have experienced something many children rarely receive today. They were almost never alone. Anthropologist Sarah Blaffer Hrdy calls humans cooperative breeders. It sounds technical, but the idea is surprisingly simple. Human babies are too demanding for one person to raise alone. Evolution solved that problem by making everyone responsible. If your child started crying while you searched for berries, another woman picked her up. If you left with the hunting party, an older sister entertained him. If both parents became exhausted, grandparents stepped in without anyone asking. Children belonged to the group long before they belonged to the individual. This wasn't kindness, it was survival. Human babies arrive in the world astonishingly helpless. A newborn gazelle can stand within minutes. A young horse begins running before the day is over. Your child cannot even lift its own head. Evolution made a trade. Instead of arriving physically ready, human babies arrive with unfinished brains capable of learning almost anything. Language, cooperation, imagination, music, art. Every extraordinary thing our species would eventually create depended on children staying alive long enough to learn it. That required constant care. Imagine beginning the day. The first rays of sunlight creep across the entrance of your shelter. The camp slowly comes alive. Someone feeds the fire. Smoke rises into the cold morning air. An elderly woman laughs as two toddlers chase each other around a pile of antlers. A hunter sharpens a stone blade while another repairs a broken spear using sinew stripped from yesterday's kill. Nobody announces breakfast. There isn't one. If food is available, people eat. If not, they wait. Your daughter reaches toward you hungry. There are no bottles, no formula, no plastic containers stored in neat kitchen cabinets. Only you. Researchers believe many prehistoric mothers breastfed children for 2, 3, sometimes even 4 years. Not because parenting books recommended it, but because nature did. Breast milk wasn't simply food, it was medicine. It carried antibodies that protected children against disease long before anyone understood what bacteria were. During difficult seasons when hunting failed or plants became scarce, it often became the difference between life and death. There was no schedule, no feeding every 3 hours, no alarm reminding you when to nurse. If your child cried from hunger, you fed them. The rhythm came from the child, not the clock. As the morning grows warmer, the camp begins moving. Nobody tells the children to stay inside. There is no inside. Your daughter spends much of the day attached to you with a sling made from softened animal hide. She watches everything from your shoulder, every conversation, every tool being carved, every berry gathered, every animal track discovered in the mud. She is learning before she can even speak. Developmental anthropologist David Lancy argues that children in traditional societies learn primarily through observation rather than formal teaching. Nobody gathers them into a classroom. Nobody writes lessons on a board. They simply watch, again and again, until one day they copy what they have seen hundreds of times. A little boy picks up a stick and imitates his father's spear. A girl pretends to scrape a hide exactly the way her grandmother does. No one corrects every mistake. Failure is expected. Practice happens naturally because children desperately want to become the adults they admire. Play and education are the same thing. A game of throwing sticks becomes hunting practice. Balancing across a fallen log becomes preparation for crossing slippery rivers. Climbing rocks becomes training for navigating cliffs. Nobody invented childhood education. Nature did. By midday, the hunting party has disappeared over the hills. The camp becomes quieter. Women gather edible roots, mushrooms, berries, and seeds, while children scatter through the landscape like curious birds. Contrary to popular imagination, prehistoric parents didn't spend every waking second shouting warnings. Don't climb that. Don't touch this. Don't go over there. Instead, children explored remarkably freely. Researchers studying the Hadza people of Tanzania and other hunter-gatherer societies have repeatedly observed children roaming far beyond what most modern parents would consider safe. They climbed trees, dug for insects, invented games, solved arguments without adults constantly intervening. Freedom wasn't dangerous, it was education. Every scraped knee taught balance. Every wrong berry taught caution. Every successful discovery built confidence. Of course, danger was real, far more real than today. A child wandering too far could encounter wolves, cave lions, hyenas, freezing rivers, or steep cliffs. Parents knew this. So did the children. Fear became another teacher. Modern childhood often separates learning from real consequences. Ancient childhood rarely could. As afternoon fades, the hunters finally return. Everyone watches silently. Success means celebration. Failure means uncertainty. Today is a good day. A young deer hangs across two shoulders. The entire camp relaxes almost instantly. Children notice the change before anyone says a word. Laughter becomes louder. Conversations become longer. Meals become generous. One successful hunt feeds everyone. One failed week reminds everyone how fragile life truly is. But food wasn't the greatest gift parents gave their children. It was belonging. James Suzman, who spent years studying the Juhwansi people of southern Africa, observed that hunter-gatherer societies often value sharing above nearly everything else. Hoarding threatens the group. Generosity protects it. Children absorb that lesson every single day. When meat is divided, everyone receives a portion. The strongest hunter does not keep the largest share, because tomorrow he may return empty-handed. Then someone else will feed him. Sharing isn't charity, it's insurance. As the sun disappears below the horizon, the world transforms. The fire becomes the center of the universe. Its light dances across smiling faces. Children drift closer. not because they're told to, because this is where the stories live. Anthropologist Polly Wiessner discovered something fascinating while studying nighttime conversations among hunter-gatherers. During the day, people mostly discussed practical matters: food, tools, travel, weather. But after dark, everything changed. The stories became larger: heroes, ancestors, spirits, mistakes, funny memories, lessons hidden inside adventure. A child listening beside the fire wasn't simply being entertained, their entire culture was entering their mind. Long before books existed, stories carried everything that mattered: which plants healed sickness, which valleys flooded after heavy rain, why greed destroyed friendships, why courage mattered, why kindness was remembered long after strength faded. Every generation became a living library. The fire wasn't only providing warmth, it was preserving civilization. Sometimes after the stories ended, someone sang, sometimes people danced. Archaeologists have discovered ancient flutes carved from bird bones, dating back more than 35,000 years. Music has accompanied humanity for longer than farming, longer than cities, longer than written language itself. Imagine your daughter hearing those melodies. She doesn't know she's listening to history. She only knows the people she loves are smiling. One day she'll hum the same tune while carrying her own child. Love leaves echoes. Archaeology reminds us of that constantly. At Sungir in Russia, researchers uncovered the graves of children buried approximately 34,000 years ago. They were surrounded by thousands of painstakingly carved ivory beads, spears crafted from mammoth tusks, and carefully placed ornaments. Those objects required hundreds of hours of work. No one invests that much effort into someone they do not cherish. Even in death, prehistoric parents honored their children with astonishing care. They grieved, they remembered, they loved just as deeply as any parent today, perhaps even more fiercely, because they understood how fragile childhood truly was. It is tempting to imagine ancient parents as emotionally hardened by constant danger. The evidence suggests something very different. Love was not a luxury. It was humanity's greatest survival strategy. Children who felt protected stayed close to adults. Children surrounded by caring relatives learned faster. Children growing up within strong communities were more likely to become adults who protected the next generation. Compassion wasn't separate from evolution. It was one of evolution's greatest inventions. As the fire burns lower, your daughter slowly falls asleep against your shoulder. She has spent the day watching hunters shape stone blades, laughing with older children, chasing butterflies through tall grass, tasting berries, listening to stories older than memory itself. She owns nothing. No toys waiting in a bedroom, no shelves filled with books, no glowing screens, no birthday presents hidden for next week. Yet she has something many children quietly crave today. She belongs to everyone around her. When she laughs, everyone smiles. When she cries, several adults turn their heads. When she sleeps, someone always remains awake to keep the fire alive. Tomorrow will bring new dangers. Perhaps heavy rain. Perhaps an unsuccessful hunt. Perhaps nothing more dramatic than another ordinary day beneath an endless sky. No one knows. But tonight she is warm, she is fed. She is surrounded by people who would risk everything to keep her alive. That is enough. 30,000 years separate your world from hers. Hospitals replaced campfires, vaccines replaced herbs, schools replaced stories whispered beneath the stars. Technology solved thousands of problems your ancestors could never imagine. Yet one ancient truth remains unchanged. Children still grow best when they know they are safe. When they know they are loved, when they know they belong. Perhaps that is the greatest lesson prehistoric parents left behind. Not a forgotten hunting technique, not a secret survival skill. But the understanding that raising a child was never meant to be a lonely task. It was always something a community did together. And if you had opened your eyes 30,000 years ago to the gentle warmth of a small child sleeping against your chest while wolves howled beyond the fading fire, you probably wouldn't have wondered whether you were doing a good enough job as a parent. You would simply have held her a little closer. Just as countless mothers, fathers, grandparents, brothers, sisters, and friends had done for thousands of generations before you, because long before humanity built cities, crossed oceans, or reached the stars, it first learned how to raise a child together.